900 apartments, spread across 163 floors, stacked higher than any residential structure ever built on this planet. 828 meters of concrete, steel, and glass rising out of the Dubai desert like a needle stitching earth to sky. The Burj Khalifa, the crown jewel. The building that became shorthand for Dubai itself, printed on every postcard, projected onto every screen, referenced in every conversation about what human ambition can achieve when money has no ceiling. And on any given night in 2026, sources familiar with building operations estimate that fewer than half of those 900 apartments have anyone inside. Not half occupied by owners. Fewer than half occupied at all. By owners, by tenants, by anyone. Lights off. Climate systems running on standby. Hallways that stretch the length of football fields without a single sound, except the low hum of elevator shafts moving cars that nobody called. The world's tallest building, reportedly half empty. Let that image settle before we go any further. Because what's happening inside the Burj Khalifa isn't just a real estate story. It's an X-ray of everything that's gone wrong in Dubai, compressed into a single vertical line visible from 60 kilometers away. Nadia Okonkwo moved into her apartment on the 122nd floor of the Burj Khalifa in November 2021. And for the first year, she thought she'd found the closest thing to heaven that money could buy. That's not a metaphor. At 122 floors, you're literally above the clouds on some mornings. She'd stand at her window with coffee and watch fog banks settle below her, the sun turning them gold while the rest of the city was still in shadow. Nadia is a 42-year-old Nigerian-British dual citizen who runs a private equity fund focused on African infrastructure. She'd been splitting time between London and Lagos for a decade before Dubai pulled her in. The pitch was irresistible, she told me. Zero tax, direct flights to everywhere I needed to be, and the address, the Burj Khalifa. You can't buy that kind of signaling anywhere else on Earth. Clients took meetings with me because of where I lived. That's not vanity. That's strategy. 85 million. At what she now realizes was near the top of the market. Her service charges alone run to an estimated 85,000 dirhams annually. Building management fees, utility premiums, parking. The total carrying cost of her apartment sits close to 150,000 dirhams a year before she pays a single dirham of mortgage. For the first 2 years, I didn't care, she said. The building felt alive. The lobby was buzzing. You'd ride the elevator with people from 15 different countries. Mosphere felt like an event. The pool deck was packed on weekends. It felt like living inside the future. Then, sometime around the middle of 2025, Nadia noticed the change. The hallways got quieter. I'd go days without seeing a neighbor. The gym, which used to have a wait list for treadmills at 6 a.m., was empty. I started counting dark windows on my floor, apartments where the lights never came on. First it was 2 or 3, then 5, then 8. Out of maybe 20 units on my floor, I'd say at least a third are completely vacant now. No furniture. No one. She paused. I'm not walking away yet, but I understand why people are. To understand why the Burj Khalifa is emptying out, you have to understand who bought in and why, because the answer reveals a vulnerability that was baked into the tower from the beginning. When the Burj Khalifa launched residential sales in 2007 and 2008, units were priced at a premium that reflected the building's status as an architectural miracle. Buyers weren't purchasing square footage. They were purchasing a story. The story of living at the top of the world. And that story attracted a very specific type of buyer, international investors, many of whom had no intention of living in the building full time. According to property analysts at Cavendish Maxwell, a significant majority of Burj Khalifa residential units were reportedly purchased by foreign nationals as investment properties or secondary residences. Owner occupancy rates in the tower have historically been estimated at well below 40%. That investor-heavy ownership structure created a problem that took years to materialize. When market conditions were favorable, when Dubai real estate was climbing, when rental yields were strong, when the Burj Khalifa address commanded premium rents, absentee ownership was invisible. The units were occupied by tenants. The hallways had life. The building functioned. But when conditions reversed, the structure's fragility became exposed. Investors who bought for appreciation watched value stagnate and then decline. 5% in the tower, well below what comparable capital invested in Singapore, London, or even Abu Dhabi could generate. Service charges and maintenance fees, which are disproportionately high in a super tall building with complex mechanical systems, continued to climb regardless of occupancy. For an investor holding a unit they never lived in, running at a net annual loss with no price appreciation in sight, the calculation becomes stark. Sell, take the loss, and redeploy the capital somewhere it earns a return. And that's exactly what's been happening. Transaction data from the Dubai Land Department reportedly shows that Burj Khalifa unit resales have accelerated significantly since late 2025, with many properties changing hands at 20 to 30% below their purchase prices. Some owners, reportedly unable to find buyers at any price, have simply stopped paying service charges, creating a cascading funding problem for the building's management company, Emaar Properties. When owners default on service charges, the shortfall gets redistributed to remaining paying owners, pushing their costs higher and incentivizing more departures. It's a mechanism that punishes loyalty. Multiple real estate agents confirmed this pattern. One agent who specializes in downtown Dubai told me she had 7 Burj Khalifa listings active simultaneously, more than at any point in her 12-year career. The sellers are realistic now, she said. A year ago, they still believed the market would come back. That belief is gone. Now, they just want out. One client told me to accept any offer above 60% of his purchase price. 2 million dirhams. 1 million. That's the mood. 4 million with 0 inquiries. Not 0 offers, he clarified. 0 inquiries. Nobody is even asking about it. I've dropped the price 3 times. Nothing. The Burj Khalifa name used to sell itself. You'd list a unit and get calls within hours. That brand premium has evaporated. Now people hear Burj Khalifa, and their first question is about the service charges, not the view. The secondary rental market has deteriorated in parallel. Units that once commanded rental premiums of 30 to 40% above comparable downtown Dubai. Apartments have reportedly seen that premium shrink to near 0 in some cases. Prospective tenants, increasingly aware of the building's vacancy issues and high service costs, which are often partially passed through in rental agreements, are choosing newer, more efficiently managed towers in neighboring developments. Why pay a premium for an address when that address no longer carries the cachet it once did? A building like the Burj Khalifa doesn't sleep, even when nobody's home. And that's part of the problem. Super tall buildings are engineering marvels, but they're also engineering burdens. The Burj Khalifa reportedly consumes approximately 250,000 gallons of water daily. Its cooling system, essential in a city where summer temperatures regularly exceed 45 degrees Celsius, operates at massive scale. The high-speed elevators, 57 of them, require continuous maintenance whether they carry 1,000 passengers a day or 50. Window cleaning alone is a year-round operation involving a specialized team and custom-built machines that take months to complete a single pass of the facade. These systems don't scale down with occupancy. Whether the building is full or half empty, the mechanical infrastructure runs at roughly the same cost. And those costs are distributed across unit owners through service charges. Charges that, according to multiple residents, have increased by approximately 12 to 15% over the past 2 years, even as the building's population has reportedly thinned. A maintenance supervisor, not Emaar management, but a contractor who works on the building's HVAC systems, described the situation with a mechanic's bluntness. You've got floors where every unit is empty, no one living there. But we still cool those corridors, we still light those hallways, we still maintain the plumbing. The building code requires it. The cost doesn't go away just because the people did. There's a feedback loop buried in this that makes recovery harder. As occupancy drops, per unit costs rise. As costs rise, more owners sell or abandon their units. As more units empty, the building becomes less desirable to potential buyers and renters, Who wants to move into a 163-story tower that feels deserted? Which pushes occupancy down further. It's a spiral, and it operates with the quiet efficiency of gravity. Residents who remain describe smaller indignities that accumulate into something larger. Common areas that once featured fresh flower arrangements now rotate artificial displays. The pool deck, which previously had attendance and towel service, reportedly operates on reduced staffing. Several residents noted that response times for maintenance requests have lengthened noticeably, from same day to multi-day. The concierge desk, once staffed around the clock by a team of 4, reportedly now operates with 2 during overnight hours. A resident on the 95th floor told me his air conditioning unit malfunctioned on a Thursday evening and wasn't serviced until Monday. In a normal apartment building, you'd be annoyed, he said. When you're paying what we pay to live here, you feel cheated. These are marginal declines individually, but in a building that sold itself on the premise of unparalleled luxury, marginal declines compound into something that feels like betrayal. The gap between what was promised and what's being delivered widens with every cost cut, every delayed repair, every empty floor that drags the experience down for everyone who remains. The Burj Khalifa isn't just residences, it's a vertical economy, and every floor of that economy is under pressure. The Armani Hotel, which occupies floors 1 through 8 and floors 38 and 39, was conceived as the ultimate luxury hospitality experience, Giorgio Armani's first hotel anywhere in the world, designed with the Italian fashion house's signature minimalism. At its peak, room rates reportedly exceeded 5,000 dirhams per night during high season, and the hotel regularly operated at occupancy levels above 75%. Current conditions tell a different story. Hospitality analysts tracking the Dubai luxury segment estimate that the Armani Hotel's occupancy has reportedly fallen to between 40 and 50% in Q1 2026. Rates have been adjusted downward, significantly. Packages and promotions, the kind of discounting that a property positioned at the absolute summit of luxury should never need, have appeared on third-party booking platforms, something that sources say Armani's management previously resisted on principle. A former front desk employee told me that during a recent weekday shift, fewer than 30 of the hotel's 160 rooms were occupied. You could hear the silence in the lobby, she said. And at Armani, the lobby was always the heartbeat. People used to come just to sit in the lobby, to feel like they were part of something exclusive. Now it feels like waiting in a very beautiful, very empty room. The Armani-branded residences on the upper hotel floors, serviced apartments managed by the hotel, have reportedly seen similar softening, with nightly rates on extended stay units dropping by an estimated 35% from their 2023 peaks. Mosphere, the restaurant and lounge on the 122nd floor that once held the Guinness record for the highest restaurant in the world. Reservations that previously required weeks of advance booking are now reportedly available same day, sometimes same hour. Several recent visitor reviews describe the experience in terms that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. Beautiful view, empty room, felt like we had the place to ourselves. Service was attentive because there was no one else to serve. The observation decks, at the top on floors 124 and 125, and the premium at the top sky on floor 148, have reportedly seen visitor numbers decline by an estimated 25 to 35% year over year, according to tourism operators who sell tickets as part of package tours. One tour operator told me he's reduced his weekly Burj Khalifa allocations by half. 2 years ago, I was buying 200 tickets a week and still couldn't meet demand. Now I buy 80 and have leftovers. The tourists are still coming to Dubai, fewer of them, but the ones who come are spending less. The Burj Khalifa ticket used to be non-negotiable. Now it's the first thing people cut from the itinerary. At the podium level, the Dubai Mall connection that once funneled thousands of daily shoppers past the tower's base has reportedly thinned significantly. Retail units in the Burj Khalifa's ground floor commercial spaces have experienced turnover, with at least 4 storefronts sitting vacant simultaneously, a sight that would have been inconceivable during the tower's first decade. There's a reason this story cuts deeper than another real estate headline. The Burj Khalifa was never just a building, it was an argument. Dubai's argument. The argument that a city with no oil, no river, no natural harbor, no ancient trade route advantage could will itself into global relevance through sheer vision and capital. The tower was the physical proof. You couldn't argue with 828 meters. You couldn't dismiss a skyline dominated by something that made every other structure on Earth look small. But proof works in both directions. When the tower was full, it proved that Dubai's model worked, that people would come from everywhere to live at the top of the world. Now that it's emptying, it proves something far more uncomfortable, that the magnetism was conditional. That the residents didn't come for the building, they came for the returns, the status, the momentum. And when those things faded, the building, no matter how tall, no matter how iconic, wasn't enough to keep them. This is the core vulnerability of every trophy asset in every speculative market. A trophy's value depends on other people wanting it. The moment desire cools, the trophy becomes a cost center. And a 163-story cost center is a very expensive problem to have. Consider the arithmetic from an investor's perspective. A 2-bedroom unit purchased for 7 million dirhams in 2022, now worth perhaps 5 million on a good day, carrying annual service charges of 85,000 dirhams, generating rental income, if a tenant can be found, of maybe 180,000 dirhams per year, 3%. A savings account in Singapore pays more. A US Treasury bond pays 3 times that with zero risk. The math doesn't just fail to excite, it fails to justify holding the asset at all. And sophisticated investors, which is exactly who the Burj Khalifa attracted, can read a spreadsheet. Dubai's government and MRR Properties have not publicly addressed the vacancy reports in detail, though MRR's most recent earnings communications emphasized the company's diversified portfolio and ongoing project pipeline. MRR's share price, it should be noted, has reportedly declined by over 30% from its 2024 highs, a metric that suggests the market, regardless of official messaging, has already priced in significant concern. Some analysts contend that the Burj Khalifa's challenges are unique to super tall buildings and don't necessarily reflect broader market conditions. There's a kernel of truth in this. The cost structure of a building that tall is genuinely exceptional, and the investor-heavy ownership profile amplifies volatility in ways that a standard residential tower wouldn't be experienced. Others point out that the Burj Khalifa has weathered previous downturns, including the severe 2009 correction that nearly halted construction across the city, and argue that cyclical recovery is the more likely outcome than permanent decline. These are fair points. But the patterns visible inside the tower, falling values, rising costs, departing occupants, compressed yields, defaulting owners, are the same patterns visible across Dubai's wider residential market, just amplified by scale and cost. The Burj Khalifa isn't an exception to Dubai's story. It's a concentrated version of it. A 163-floor barometer measuring pressure that the entire city is feeling. For those who remain in the building, the experience has shifted from prestige to something more complicated. Several current residents described a feeling that's difficult to name precisely. Not regret exactly, but a kind of bewildered sadness. The sense that they purchased a dream that was real for a moment and is now dissolving around them, floor by floor, neighbor by neighbor, dark window by dark window. So here we are, back where we started. 900 doors, 163 floors, 828 meters of steel and glass and ambition, rising out of the desert like an exclamation point at the end of a sentence that Dubai spent 30 years writing. What happens to a symbol when the thing it symbolizes starts to crack? Does the building still mean what it meant when every unit was full, every restaurant packed, every elevator humming with the energy of people who believed they were living inside the future? Or does it become something else? A monument not to ambition, but to the limits of ambition. A reminder that you can build the tallest structure in human history and still not build something that people want to stay in. Can the Burj Khalifa reinvent itself? Can Emaar restructure ownership, reduce costs, attract a new generation of residents who see value where others saw loss? Or is this the beginning of a long, slow fade, a tower that remains standing, but gradually loses the life that gave it meaning? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're real ones. And the answers will shape not just the future of one building, but the credibility of every megastructure, every trophy project, every skyline-defining gamble that cities around the world are still racing to build. If you've been inside the Burj Khalifa recently, as a resident, a guest, a visitor, I want to know what you experienced. Does this match what you saw? Or is there another side to this story that the data isn't capturing? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you want to follow where this leads, because the Burj Khalifa story is unfolding in real time, and what happens next will tell us something important about Dubai, about real estate, and about what happens when the tallest tower in the world can't hold the weight of its own promise. The lights are still on inside the Burj Khalifa, but fewer of them, on fewer floors, on fewer nights than at any point in the building's history. And that growing darkness, visible from the ground, visible from the highway, visible from the neighboring towers that once looked up at the Burj in awe, is saying something. The question is whether anyone in a position to act is willing to listen.